The Mario RPG games are often regarded as some of Nintendo's best releases, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're all equally as good. And considering how well received the Super Mario RPG remake has been, I figured there's no better time to find a place for it in a full tier list video covering these games. So leading things off as the worst Mario RPG game, I have the obvious choice in Paper Mario Sticker Star. I often hear people criticizing this game just because it's the popular thing to do, but in truth I have a lot of specific reasons for my beliefs. While the gameplay isn't great in my opinion, the discourse around this game's impact on the future of the series is much more important. If Sticker Star was the only Paper Mario game in existence, perhaps I could be less harsh on it. After all, there's nothing too wrong with the game, and the music is some of the best out of all the Mario games. I even know a few people who think it was a great game since they've never really touched the other Paper Marios. But as someone who had played the original trilogy of games, Sticker Star felt like a slap in the face when I saw all the changes that the fans of the series obviously wouldn't like. It's like Nintendo saw the desire for the battle system to return, but decided to take things way too far. It also just didn't make sense how popular Super Paper Mario was, and then they just decided to completely remove the story from the game. I don't really feel like talking about this game for that long because at this point my beliefs about Sticker Star probably aren't changing. Next up is Color Splash, and yeah, this game is basically just as bad as Sticker Star except slightly more enjoyable due to the amazing visuals and humor. Mario and Luigi Paper Jam had to be the most forgettable game out of all of these on the list, which is really disappointing because I thought that the fusion of my two favorite Mario series would be amazing. Unfortunately, this game came out around a time when both Mario and Luigi and Paper Mario were on a major decline in terms of popularity and overall quality. If we're being realistic, this game is basically just Mario and Luigi without the good story and unique characters, which is pretty much half the battle. Alright, now that we're done with the bad games, let's talk about the ones that were just alright. First, Paper Mario Origami King. I have to be honest, I've barely played much of this game myself, and my extent of knowledge comes from watching it being played. From what I've seen though, we get a lot of promising things in the game that show Nintendo almost cared about what the fans were saying about previous releases. Why haven't I played it fully though? Well, it still just looked and felt boring to me. This game came around a point where I'd pretty much given up on the series, and when I had to deal with that stupid battle system, I just put it down after a while. This game probably would have been alright though. Finally, leaving behind all those mediocre Paper Mario related titles, let's talk about Mario and Luigi Partners in Time. This game often gets a bad reputation as the worst of the original trilogy of Mario and Luigi games, and while that may be true, it doesn't mean that this game is bad. I think that the game had a lot of potential, especially going along with the darker theming of the story. The biggest issue was that it really tried to do way too much with the whole Baby Mario and Luigi concept, which often just felt worse than Superstar Saga. Not to mention the antagonists of this game just don't have any meaningful dialogue, so it just kind of feels like you're fighting creatures for the sake of them being the bad guys. It's not a bad game, just one that wasn't optimized well. Alright, now is where these games get pretty good. Mario and Luigi Dream Team was the last great game of the series, and while it isn't the best entry, it certainly holds up over the years. If you were to have a game that understands what to keep and what to remove from previous titles, this would be the one. Everything here is either new or a direct improvement from its predecessors. The gap between this game and Paper Jam is huge, but as for the other Mario and Luigi games, it's pretty close. Now is where the Paper Mario games start getting good. Super Paper Mario is one of the most underrated Mario games, and I think that just stems from people enjoying the original two games more. This game changed nearly everything about Paper Mario, and on release it was heavily criticized for this. Despite this, it is one of the best-selling Paper Mario games, and retrospectively, it's one of the best ones too. Sure, no battling is rough, but when you consider how much story and dialogue was brought up to supplement it, I think that this still holds up amazingly. If you were to create a perfect new Paper Mario game, you would basically make Super Paper Mario, but with more traditional turn-based RPG elements. That being said, when you aren't engaged in the story, this game is just alright, so that's why I don't consider it on the level of the first two games. Regardless, it's still very good. Finally, we've reached the best of the best. This tier is filled with some of my favorite games of all time, not just Mario RPGs. Leading off, we have Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. This game is regarded by many as the best Mario and Luigi game, and honestly, it's a coin flip for me whether this or Superstar Saga is better. If not anything else, it was brave enough to change up the gameplay by allowing us to play as Mario, Luigi, and Bowser. As a kid, I originally thought it'd be weird to play like this, but it turned out to be incredibly synchronized, unlike how cluttered Partners in Time felt with the babies. Funny story, when I was a kid, I was playing this game for the first time. I had to be like 10 years old, and I remember I got stuck on this carrot minigame. I just asked my mom to return the game back to GameStop. Obviously, I got to see the rest of the game when I got older, but I just thought it was kind of funny how something so small messed up my initial playthrough of the game. Of course, I also have to mention arguably the best song out of any of these games on this list, the final boss music. Next on the list is the first game in the Mario & Luigi series, and that is Superstar Saga. Again, this game is pretty much a toss-up with Bowser's Inside Story for being the best in the series. I tried looking less through a lens of graphics and audio quality and more through gameplay. Truly, Superstar Saga is one of the most replayable games on this list because of its simple yet engaging presentation. The overworld is fun to navigate and the battles feel fairly significant for a Mario RPG game. I don't actually have much criticism to give here, and I think that many of you would agree that this game is timeless. After playing a game like Bowser's Inside Story or Dream Team, it might seem a bit surface level, but honestly that's desirable if you're just looking to relax with a nostalgic game. I also think that the characters throughout the story are some of the most entertaining in the series, not to mention all of the unique locations in the Bean Kingdom. And just like Bowser's Inside Story, Superstar Saga has one of the most classic battle themes on this list. Alright, now it's time for Super Mario RPG on the SNES. And yes, I'm sure you're noticing that I'm talking about this game first and not the remake, and yeah, we'll talk about that soon. First, let's just acknowledge that I have an SNES game ranked over games released damn near 5 console generations later. That being said, this game has held its weight extremely well over the years, with its only struggle being limited access due to getting trapped on older consoles. Without Mario RPG, none of the games on this list would have existed, and that alone should be enough for it to be held in high regard. If we go into the gameplay itself, it's an SNES game that feels like a Game Boy Advance game. The music has countless classics, the humor is so funny to this day, and the battle system is great for its time. This was one of the only times where Nintendo had partnered with a completely unaffiliated company to make a completely new game, and it was truly a success. So you may be thinking, what about the remake? Well, it's in the spot right after this. The remake of Super Mario RPG didn't need to do much in order to be good, and that's exactly what happened. While I haven't fully beat this game yet, my experience with it has been basically just as good as playing the original. The music, jokes, combat system are almost all completely faithful, and the only things really different are the fact that they made necessary improvements that no one's complaining about. My only current criticism that I have for it is that it costs $60 despite being quite a short game, but of course, that's Nintendo. It's not like that really affected anything else negatively either, since this game has sold better than nearly any Mario RPG game on release. I think that from this success, we'll certainly be seeing more from this branch of Mario games. In the number 2 spot, Paper Mario can comfortably slot in as a timeless classic. Going back through this game after playing its sequels can feel a bit empty, but I remember that feeling of playing through it for the first time and it was amazing. Mario RPG certainly had that feeling of an adventure, but since it was 2D, it had a slight feeling of disconnection. Paper Mario basically took everything Mario RPG did and amplified it. Well, minus the difficulty. If there's any game that deserves a remake, this is surely on the top of the list, especially now that Thousand Year Door is getting one. Speaking of which, oh, who would have guessed? Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is my favorite game on the list. Just like Sticker Star is popular to hate, this game is popular to love, but I definitely have a lot to say about it. This game is a unique one for me because it did so much right and also did a lot wrong. The pacing is some of the worst in the series at times, and the backtracking clutters the game. That being said, those issues are completely forgotten when you consider how well everything else is put together. The story and the setting is all completely original, and with the new music and characters, this game truly has its own atmosphere. Nostalgia is perhaps strong with this game, but even if I played it for the first time today, I guarantee it would be on the upper echelon of Mario RPGs.